What if everything you've been taught about achieving your dreams is completely backward? What if all that hustling, grinding, and pushing yourself to exhaustion is actually keeping you from manifesting the life you truly desire? This might sound counterintuitive in our productivity-obsessed world, but the greatest minds in manifestation, like Florence Scovel Shinn, have been teaching an extraordinary truth that turns conventional wisdom on its head. While everyone around you insists that you must wake up earlier, work harder, and sacrifice more to succeed, Scovel Shinn whispers a more profound truth. True creation happens not in your doing, but in your being. Not in your striving, but in your surrendering. Has this ever happened to you? You've worked tirelessly toward a goal, checking all the boxes, following all the advice, putting in countless hours, only to feel like you're pushing against an invisible barrier? That's because you've been operating from a fundamental misunderstanding about how reality is created. The world has conditioned us to believe that manifestation happens through external action, through achievement and performance. We've been taught that if we just do more, we'll finally have what we want. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if the real magic happens not when you're pushing, but when you're allowing? Not when you're forcing reality to bend to your will, but when you're assuming it's already aligned with your desires. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform your approach to creating the life you desire. This isn't just another manifestation technique. It's a radical shift in understanding how consciousness shapes reality. The most powerful creative act available to you isn't sending another email, making another call, or pushing through another exhausting day. It's actually something you do every single night. Sleep. But not just any sleep. It's falling asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. The profound practice of entering sleep while holding the assumption that what you desire is already yours. When you fall asleep in the state of fulfilled desire, you aren't hoping for change. You're becoming the change. You aren't asking the universe to deliver. You're assuming it already has. This isn't positive thinking or wishful dreaming. It's aligning your consciousness with a reality that already exists at the level of pure potential. What makes this approach so revolutionary is that it bypasses the conscious mind's resistance and skepticism. It plants your intention directly into the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, where all true manifestation begins. Your sleeping mind becomes the garden where tomorrow's reality takes root. Think about this for a moment. We spend roughly a third of our lives asleep, yet we've been conditioned to view this time as merely passive restoration. This limited perspective has hidden one of life's most profound revelations. Sleep isn't just downtime for your body, it's prime time for transformation at the deepest level of consciousness. When you close your eyes at night, you're not shutting down. You're opening a direct channel to the most powerful creative force in existence. Your conscious mind, with all its doubts, fears, and limitations, steps aside, allowing your subconscious to take center stage. This is the exact moment when real manifestation begins. The journey toward any meaningful change in your external reality always begins with a shift in your internal state. What makes sleep so extraordinarily powerful is that it bypasses the skeptical gatekeeper of your rational mind and speaks directly to the creative center of your being. When you fall asleep, holding the feeling that your desire has already been fulfilled, you're not engaging in fantasy. You're participating in the most fundamental creative process of reality itself. This understanding represents a complete mindset revolution. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to force outcomes through sheer willpower during your waking hours, you're aligning with the natural rhythm of creation. You're working with the universe rather than against it. But here's where most teachings about manifestation miss the mark entirely. They position you as separate from the creative force you're trying to harness. They tell you that you need to raise your vibration to match some external frequency, that you must somehow align with energies outside yourself. This fundamental misunderstanding creates unnecessary struggle and disappointment. The hidden truth that Florence Scovel Shinn understood so clearly is that you don't need to match any external frequency because you are the frequency. You don't need to align with some distant creative force because you are that creative force individualized in human form. The vibration, the energy, the power. It's not something you seek, it's something you express. If these sleep manifestation principles resonated with you, hit that subscribe button to join our conscious creation community. I'm dedicated to sharing practical wisdom that transforms how you use your consciousness to shape your reality. When you truly grasp this revelation, everything shifts. Your entire approach to manifestation transforms from an endless pursuit into a simple matter of self-recognition. You're not trying to become something new. You're remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and limitation. This understanding dissolves the boundary between the seeker and what is sought. There is no separation between you and what you desire. The only distance is in consciousness, and that distance can be closed in an instant through assumption, through the feeling that what you want is already yours. Think of it like this. Your assumptions are broadcasting on a specific frequency at every moment. When you assume lack, you broadcast the frequency of lack, and your world reflects that back to you with perfect fidelity. When you assume abundance, you broadcast the frequency of abundance, and your reality reorganizes itself around that assumption. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens physiologically and psychologically in that crucial moment before sleep. That twilight state between wakefulness and slumber is when your brain waves begin to shift from beta to alpha to theta, creating the perfect conditions for impressing new patterns on your subconscious mind. This is when the barrier between conscious intention and subconscious acceptance is at its thinnest. The impact of these few minutes cannot be overstated. The feelings and assumptions you carry into sleep become the silent commands that your subconscious works with throughout the night, rearranging neurons, creating new neural pathways, and literally reshaping your brain to align with your assumed reality. As you sleep, your mind is busy building the internal architecture that will eventually manifest as your external experience. If you're resonating with this concept of sleep as your greatest creative power, write "sleeping creator" in the comments. I'd love to know who's understanding this powerful shift in perspective. Let's talk about something most of us do every single night without realizing its profound impact on our reality. Those final moments before you drift off to sleep might seem inconsequential. Perhaps you're scrolling through social media, mentally reviewing your to-do list for tomorrow, or replaying that uncomfortable conversation from earlier in the day. What you may not realize is that these seemingly innocent mental habits are actually powerful programming sessions for your subconscious mind. Your pre-sleep mental state is like planting seeds in the most fertile soil imaginable. Whatever you plant in those twilight moments will grow into tomorrow's experiences with remarkable precision. If you're rehearsing problems, mentally cataloging all the things you lack, or replaying worries and fears, you're literally programming your subconscious to manifest more of the same. You're laying the foundation of tomorrow with the building blocks of today's failures. This revelation can be both sobering and liberating. Sobering because it means we've unwittingly been creating many of our struggles through this unconscious evening ritual. Liberating because once we understand this hidden mechanism, we can immediately begin using it to our advantage through a simple shift in awareness. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this transformative potential decades ago. She taught that these pre-sleep moments are actually your greatest opportunity for personal reinvention. Rather than falling asleep with your mind full of tomorrow's problems, you can consciously choose to enter sleep feeling the emotional reality of your wish fulfilled. This isn't about forcing positive thoughts or using affirmations that your conscious mind rejects. It's about gently allowing yourself to experience the feeling of already having what you desire. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like if your most cherished dream were already realized. Not the excitement of it happening, but the calm, peaceful knowing that comes after achievement. The relief, the contentment, the quiet joy. That feeling, that state of consciousness, is what you want to carry into sleep. When you assume this new state of consciousness before sleep, something miraculous begins to happen behind the scenes of your awareness. The creative power within you, call it your subconscious mind, your higher self, or the universal intelligence, begins working on your behalf. While your conscious mind rests, this deeper aspect of your being is busy rearranging circumstances, creating synchronicities, opening doors, and manifesting the life that aligns with your assumed state. This isn't wishful thinking or magical belief. It's a practical application of psychological principles that shape our perception and behavior in ways we're only beginning to scientifically understand. When you consistently assume a new state before sleep, you're essentially rewiring your brain's reticular activating system, the filtering mechanism that determines what you notice in your environment. Your brain begins seeking evidence that confirms your new assumption, recognizing opportunities it would have previously filtered out. Simultaneously, your nervous system begins to calibrate to this new emotional baseline, subtly shifting your demeanor, your energy, your decision-making patterns, and even your physiological responses. You begin unconsciously making different choices, speaking differently, moving differently, all of which leads to different results in your external world. This journey of conscious assumption isn't about denying reality or bypassing genuine emotions. It's about recognizing that what we call reality is far more malleable and responsive to consciousness than we've been led to believe. It's about making a sovereign decision about which version of reality you choose to align with before you surrender to sleep. Think of it as selecting the station your radio will play throughout the night and into tomorrow. You can tune into the station of lack, limitation, and worry, or you can tune into the station of abundance, possibility, and peace. The choice, made in those final moments before sleep, shapes the broadcast you'll receive when you wake. If this perspective on sleep as a manifestation tool resonates with you, type "Nighttime Creator" in the comments below. I'd love to hear how this shifts your approach to those precious moments before sleep. Let me share a powerful story that beautifully illustrates this principle in action. Florence Scovel Shinn once recounted a pivotal moment in her journey that transformed her understanding of manifestation forever. As a young woman in Barbados with limited resources and connections, she felt an overwhelming desire to be in New York. She wanted to teach, to share her insights, to live the life she had seen so clearly in her mind's eye, but which seemed impossibly distant from her current reality. Many would have approached this desire through conventional means, saving money, researching opportunities, making practical plans. And while these actions have their place, Scovel Shinn intuitively understood a deeper pathway to transformation. Each night before sleep, she would perform what might seem like a simple ritual, but was actually a profound act of consciousness. She would lie in her bed, in Barbados, and feel herself in New York. Notice the crucial distinction here. She didn't visualize herself getting to New York or imagine the steps required to make the journey. She didn't picture herself packing bags, boarding ships, or arriving at her destination. These common visualization techniques actually reinforce the perception of separation between you and your desire. Instead, she assumed the state of already being there. She would feel the bed in New York. She would sense the different climate, hear the distinctive sounds, and experience the unique texture of that reality. She wasn't a person hoping to get somewhere. She was already there, simply remembering where she was. This is what makes her approach so revolutionary. She understood that the journey from desire to fulfillment isn't a physical distance to be traveled, but a shift in consciousness to be experienced. By assuming the feeling of already being in New York while her body rested in Barbados, she collapsed. The apparent gap between wish and fulfillment, The results were nothing short of miraculous. Within weeks, not years, not even months, circumstances began to align in ways she could not have orchestrated through planning alone. An opportunity arose that she hadn't actively pursued. An invitation came that she couldn't have engineered. Without struggle, without the grinding effort the world demands, she found herself physically in New York, teaching and living precisely the life she had felt as already hers. Subscribe now to continue your journey of transformation. Each video builds upon these principles, offering you deeper insights and practical techniques to master the art of conscious creation through sleep. Behind this remarkable manifestation lies a profound understanding of the relationship between sleep and creation. Sleep isn't merely a biological function where your body and mind shut down. It's actually a sacred bridge between the invisible realm of imagination and the visible world of physical experience. It's the womb where new realities gestate before birth. It's the threshold between what's possible and what's manifest. During sleep, something extraordinary happens in your neurology. Your conscious mind, the analytical questioning part that doubts, argues, and resists, recedes into the background. The mental gatekeeper that constantly evaluates, judges, and limits what you believe is possible temporarily steps aside. In this receptive state, your subconscious mind, which is the true creative power, becomes accessible and impressionable. Unlike your conscious mind, your subconscious doesn't question or debate what you present to it. It doesn't ask whether you deserve what you desire or analyze whether your goals are realistic based on your current circumstances. It simply accepts the feeling, impressions you give it, and begins working to externalize that inner experience into your physical reality. This is why the moment before sleep is so critical for reshaping your life trajectory. The assumptions, the feelings, the state of consciousness you carry into sleep become the blueprint that your subconscious works with throughout the night. It's as if you're handing over instructions to a powerful but literal-minded builder who will construct exactly what you've specified, not what you've asked for verbally, but what you've felt emotionally. The revelation here is that we've been using this creative mechanism our entire lives, but mostly unconsciously and often to our detriment. Most people fall asleep, replaying problems, rehearsing worries, or feeling the weight of current limitations, and then wonder why they wake to more of the same. The paradigm shift occurs when we begin using this bridge consciously, deliberately impressing upon our subconscious the feeling of our wishes fulfilled rather than the feeling of their absence. If you're ready to start experimenting with this profound dimension of sleep, comment "Consciousness Bridge" below. And let's explore how this approach begins to shift your daily experience. What you're discovering here is a fundamental blueprint for reality creation that most manifestation teachings miss entirely. Think about how your day unfolds each morning. Have you ever noticed how the emotional tone you wake up with tends to color your entire day? This isn't random. It's a direct continuation of the consciousness you fell asleep in. The transition from sleep to wakefulness is like watching the development of a photograph you took the night before. If you fell asleep in a state of lack, fear, or frustration, you're going to wake up to a world that confirms and reinforces these feelings. It's as if your consciousness has been working throughout the night to gather evidence supporting your dominant emotional state, carefully arranging circumstances to validate what you assumed to be true before sleep. This revelation can be jarring when you first encounter it. Many of us have spent years unknowingly programming ourselves for limitation night after night, then wondering why we can't seem to break through to new levels of abundance and fulfillment. We've been unwittingly sabotaging our growth through this invisible mechanism that operates while we sleep. But here's where the journey takes a revolutionary turn. This same principle works just as powerfully in the positive direction. When you fall asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, when you rest in the quiet confidence that what you desire is already yours, you wake to a reality that begins confirming that assumption. Not in some distant future, not as a someday possibility, but as an unfolding certainty. The transformation doesn't always announce itself with dramatic events. More often, it begins subtly, perhaps with an unexpected idea, an unusual synchronicity, a chance meeting, or simply a different feeling tone to your day. These seemingly small shifts are actually the first indicators that the blueprint you impressed upon your subconscious before sleep is now being externalized into your waking experience. Now let me address a common misconception that creates unnecessary struggle for countless seekers. Many spiritual teachings suggest that manifestation is about raising your vibration to match some external frequency, as if abundance, love, success, and fulfillment exist somewhere out there, and you must somehow align with them. This perspective, while well-intentioned, actually reinforces the very separation it claims to overcome. The breakthrough comes when you realize there is no frequency outside of you that you must match or align with. You are the frequency. You are the vibration. You are the energy that all things respond to. This isn't spiritual platitude. It's the hidden architecture of reality. When you feel lack, you're not misaligned with abundance. You are literally vibrating at the frequency of lack, and the world is reflecting that vibration back to you with perfect precision. When you feel abundance, not as a concept, but as a lived experience, you are vibrating at the frequency of abundance, and your reality reorganizes itself around that feeling. This understanding dismantles the hierarchy that places you beneath the universe, subordinate to external forces you must appease or align with. It places you at the creative center of your experience, where you've always been, even if unconsciously so. Your consciousness isn't just interpreting reality, it's generating it. The paradigm shift is moving from seeking to assuming, from aligning to embodying, from asking to commanding, not through force or manipulation, but through the quiet power of your assumed state. The universe isn't testing you, judging you, or making you earn your desires. It's simply responding to your dominant frequency, to what you are being, not what you are wanting. This realization brings profound liberation. You no longer need to search outside yourself for the perfect technique, the right teacher, or the missing piece. The creative power you've been seeking is already within you, expressing itself through your feeling states, particularly those you carry into sleep. The journey isn't about becoming something new, but recognizing what you already are. Consciousness itself, the creative principle individualized in human form. From this recognition comes a natural authority, not over others, but over your own experience. You begin to consciously direct your internal state, knowing it will inevitably be mirrored in your external world. If you're experiencing an insight about your own creative power while reading this, type "I am the frequency" in the comments. Let's explore how this awareness shifts your relationship with manifestation on a fundamental level. Now let's explore what might be the most profound shift in identity available to human consciousness. There's a revolutionary understanding hidden within ancient wisdom traditions that completely transforms how we relate to our life circumstances. Most people walk through their days with a fundamental misunderstanding of their relationship to reality. They perceive themselves as small, separate beings navigating a vast, unyielding world, essentially victims of circumstance, hoping for occasional good fortune. This perception creates an endless journey of seeking alignment, seeking permission, seeking validation from forces perceived as outside themselves. It's an exhausting paradigm that positions you as perpetually incomplete, always chasing something beyond your current experience. This mindset of separation is the invisible architecture behind most human suffering and limitation. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered through her own inner awakening is that this entire framework is inverted. You are not a fragment in a universe that exists independently of you. You are not a being seeking connection with the creative force. The breakthrough realization, the revelation that transforms everything, is that you are that creative force individualized in human form. You are the inner kingdom made flesh. When this understanding moves from intellectual concept to lived experience, everything changes. You stop trying to attract things to you as if they exist separately from you. You stop begging the universe for scraps of abundance or happiness. You stop seeking alignment with something perceived as outside yourself. Instead, you begin assuming, embodying, and expressing the very state you wish to experience. This is not arrogance or spiritual bypass. It's actually the most profound humility. It's surrendering the ego's perception of separation and recognizing your true nature as an expression of the one creative consciousness. From this recognition comes a natural authority, not over others, but over your own experience. The journey of manifestation transforms from an external quest into an internal remembering. The question is no longer, how do I get what I want, but who must I be to naturally express what I desire? This subtle distinction contains the secret to everything you've been seeking. Now, let's address a pervasive cultural conditioning that creates enormous suffering and limitation. The world has taught you a backwards formula for happiness and fulfillment. It suggests that you must first have certain things or achieve certain milestones before you can feel the emotions you desire. It says you must have money to feel abundant, have a relationship to feel loved, have recognition to feel valued, have physical perfection to feel confident. This outside-in approach keeps happiness perpetually out of reach because it places your emotional state at the mercy of external circumstances. It positions you as an effect rather than a cause. But the deeper truth, the revelation that can set you free, is that this formula is completely inverted. You must feel abundant before you see abundance reflected in your circumstances. You must feel loved before you experience love mirrored back to you. You must feel worthy before you see evidence of your worth in the external world. The feeling, the internal state, must precede the external manifestation. This is not positive thinking or psychological technique. This is the fundamental law of creation. Your feeling state is not just a reaction to reality. It's the very substance from which reality is formed. Consciousness is the only reality, and feeling is the language of consciousness. Whatever you feel to be true, whatever state you occupy emotionally, becomes the template that your external world must eventually conform to. This understanding liberates you from waiting. You no longer need to wait until circumstances change to feel how you want to feel. You no longer need to postpone joy, peace, confidence, or abundance until some future condition is met. You can claim these states now, in this moment, through the power of assumption, through the deliberate choice to occupy the state of your wish, fulfilled regardless of current appearances. This is the hidden dimension of transformation that few teachings address. The gap between knowing these principles intellectually and embodying them experientially. Bridging this gap requires a complete revolution in how you relate to your feelings. Rather than allowing emotions to be automatic responses to external triggers, you begin to recognize them as creative forces you can consciously direct. The mindset shift is profound. You move from, I'll feel abundant when I have more money, to I am feeling abundant now, and my financial reality will rearrange itself to match this feeling. You shift from, I'll feel loved when I find the right relationship, to I am feeling loved now, and my relationships will transform to reflect this state. If you've experienced moments where you've reversed this creative formula and felt the state before seeing evidence of it, share your feeling-first story in the comments below. Let's explore the profound power contained within two simple words that you use constantly, yet likely, without recognizing their creative force. When Florence Scovel Shinn spoke of I am, she wasn't referring to a mere phrase or affirmation technique. She was pointing to something far more fundamental, the very essence of your creative power, the name of divinity itself expressing through you. I am is not something you say. It's something you are. It's the core creative energy of the universe individualized as you in this moment. When you declare I am, followed by any quality, condition, or state, you're not describing something external to yourself. You're not reporting on an existing condition. You are literally issuing a creative command to the universe, and that command must be fulfilled because I am is the creative principle itself. This revelation transforms how you understand your everyday speech, especially your internal dialogue. When you habitually say or think, I am broke, I am struggling, I am sick, or I am unlucky, you're not simply describing your current circumstances. You're actually commanding these conditions into continued existence. You're decreeing them as your reality. You're giving them the creative power of your divine identity. Conversely, when you consciously attach I am to states you wish to experience, I am abundant, I am healthy, I am successful, I am loved, you're not engaging in positive thinking or wishful affirmations. You're making a metaphysical declaration that must, by law, externalize into your experience. You're commanding these states into being through the creative force of your consciousness. The power doesn't lie in the repetition of phrases, but in the feeling awareness behind them, the consciousness from which they emerge. An I am statement spoken from a place of conviction, accepted as already true at the feeling level, becomes the blueprint from which your reality is constructed. This is why mindless affirmations often fail, while assumed states transform everything. This understanding reveals the hidden architecture behind all creation. Every condition in your life right now, your financial situation, your relationships, your health, your career, began as an I am declaration, conscious or unconscious. Your current reality is simply the externalization of what you have been declaring yourself to be, through your dominant feeling states and inner conversations. Let me share a remarkable story that illustrates this principle in action. Florence Scovel Shinn once worked with a woman who was deeply burdened by financial lack. This woman had tried everything the conventional world recommends, working harder, cutting expenses, budgeting meticulously, yet remained trapped in a cycle of scarcity that seemed impossible to break. When she came to Scovel Shinn, she was at her breaking point. I've done everything I can think of, she lamented, and nothing works. What Scovel Shinn recognized was that this woman hadn't done the one thing that truly matters. She hadn't changed her I am identity. She was still assuming I am poor and experiencing the inevitable reflection of that assumption. Scovel Shinn gave her a simple but profound practice. Each night before sleep, when the conscious mind's resistance is lowest and the subconscious is most receptive, she was to feel herself wealthy. Not to think about how the money would come, not to plan the steps, not to worry about the method, simply to assume the feeling of having more than enough. She was instructed to feel the relief, the freedom, the quiet confidence of someone who never has to think about money because it's always abundant. And then, from that state, to fall asleep. This practice is revolutionary because it bypasses the analytical mind that would argue with such an assumption based on evidence and speaks directly to the creative subconscious. The results were nothing short of miraculous, though completely aligned with law. Within days, not months or years, unexpected shifts began occurring in her external reality. A check arrived in the mail that she hadn't anticipated. A debt that had burdened her for years was suddenly forgiven by the creditor without explanation. A former employer reached out with a contract offer seemingly from nowhere. The blueprint of her consciousness had changed, and reality had no choice but to reorganize itself around this new template. Not because of coincidence, not because of luck, but because consciousness is the only cause of experience. When she stopped declaring, I am broke, and started embodying, I am abundant, the external had to conform to this internal shift. If you've ever experienced a profound identity shift where your self-concept fundamentally changed and your reality followed suit, share your I am transformation in the comments below. These real-world examples remind us that we're not discussing abstract theory, but living law. Now let's consider a profound reality-shifting perspective that completely transforms how you view the relationship between your inner and outer worlds. Most people operate under the assumption that their external circumstances are the cause of their internal states. They believe that when conditions improve, their feelings will follow, essentially positioning themselves as effects of the world rather than causes. This inverted understanding creates a peculiar kind of prison. You find yourself constantly reacting to circumstances, perpetually waiting for the world to change before you can experience peace, abundance, or fulfillment. It's a perspective that places your happiness and well-being at the mercy of factors you perceive as beyond your control. The breakthrough revelation that Florence Scovel Shinn understood so clearly is that this entire framework is backwards. The world you see is not the cause of your experience. It is the effect. It is not the source. It is the reflection. It is not the origin. It is the mirror. Your circumstances, relationships, financial conditions, and physical experiences are not creating your inner states. They are reflecting them. This understanding completely repositions you in relation to your life circumstances. If the outer world is merely mirroring your inner state, then trying to change the reflection while maintaining the same inner condition is an exercise in futility. It's like putting on makeup to change your appearance in a mirror while never touching your actual face. The mirror can only reflect what is placed before it. It has no independent power. To change what you see in the mirror of life, you must change what is being reflected. Your consciousness, your dominant assumptions, your feeling states, your I am identity. When you shift these internal factors, the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself accordingly. This is not magical thinking. It's the fundamental mechanism of reality creation that operates whether you're aware of it or not. Let me share a powerful example that demonstrates this principle in unmistakable clarity. Scovel Shinn once worked with a man who had suffered from chronic back pain for over a decade. He had visited countless doctors, tried numerous treatments, taken various medications, all providing temporary relief at best before the pain would inevitably return. When he sought her guidance, she recognized immediately what most healers had missed. His physical condition wasn't primarily a medical issue. It was a manifestation of consciousness. Every day, he would reinforce his condition through constant complaint and negative testimony. "My back is ruined," he would declare upon waking. "I will never be free of this pain. The doctors say there's nothing they can do. This is my cross to bear." What he didn't realize was that these weren't mere descriptions of his reality. They were creative declarations shaping it. Every time he affirmed his broken state, he was instructing his subconscious to maintain that condition. Every time he testified against his healing, he was commanding his body to remain in pain. Scovel Shinn gave him a revolutionary prescription, though one that would seem absurd to conventional thinking. For 3 days, he was to stop all negative testimony about his back. No mentions of pain, no discussions of limitations, no explanations for why he moved slowly. Instead, he was to consistently affirm, "I am whole, I am restored, I am free, my body is perfect, I move with ease." The key insight was that he wasn't to speak these words as future aspirations, but as present facts. Not because they matched his current physical experience, but because he was choosing to live from the assumption of the healed state rather than the painful one. His initial resistance was natural, but that would be lying. "I am in pain." What he needed to understand was the distinction between describing reality and decreeing it. He wasn't being asked to deny sensations, but to stop giving creative power to a state he no longer wished to perpetuate. The transformation that followed demonstrates the astonishing connection between consciousness and physical experience. Within a month, after years of unchanging pain, his condition began to improve, not through new medical interventions or physical therapies, but through the simple yet profound act of changing his inner assumption from brokenness to wholeness. The pain that had defined his identity for a decade began to dissolve. Not instantly, not completely all at once, but progressively and unmistakably. By shifting his consciousness from "I am broken" to "I am whole," he had changed what was being reflected in the mirror of his physical experience. If you've experienced a time when changing your internal assumption led to a seemingly miraculous shift in your external reality, share your mirror moment in the comments below. These real-world examples remind us of the extraordinary creative power we each possess. Let me share a powerful parable that illuminates the often invisible mechanism behind persistent problems in our lives. Imagine a gardener who plants a seed in fertile soil. He waters it faithfully, tends the soil meticulously, and ensures it receives adequate sunlight. One day, to his dismay, a thistle sprouts instead of the beautiful flower he had anticipated. The gardener is horrified. This prickly, invasive plant was never what he intended to grow. Yet notice what he does next. Every day, he kneels before the thistle and speaks to it. Look at this terrible thing. Why does it grow here? I hate it. It ruins my garden. It pricks my fingers. It spreads its seeds everywhere. I cannot believe this is happening to me. Why do I always get thistles? Why do other people get roses and I get thorns? What the gardener doesn't realize is that his attention, his emotion, his focus, and especially his words are nourishing the very thing he claims to hate. His attention is water. His words are sunlight. His emotion is fertilizer. And the thistle, receiving this constant stream of energy, negative though it may be, grows taller, its roots deepen, and it multiplies throughout the garden. One day, a stranger passes by and observes the curious scene of a man kneeling before a thistle, speaking to it with such intensity. Why do you water what you do not want? The stranger asks. Confused and somewhat offended, the gardener replies, I'm not watering it. Can't you see how much I hate this plant? The stranger smiles knowingly and reveals the hidden truth. Your attention is water. Your words are sunlight. Your emotion is fertilizer. You think you are rejecting the thistle, but you are feeding it with every sentence, commanding it to grow with every thought, giving it the substance of your consciousness. This parable reveals with striking clarity the mechanism behind much of our suffering. How often do we kneel before our problems, giving them our undivided attention, speaking of them constantly, feeling their presence intensely, all while claiming we want them gone? We focus on our debt while claiming to desire wealth. We discuss our illness while claiming to want health. We rehearse our loneliness while claiming to seek connection. We don't realize that our focus isn't passive observation. It's creative energy. We are not merely describing our reality. We are generating it through our consistent attention and declaration. The things we complain about most persistently are receiving the most potent creative force we possess, our consciousness. The revelation here transforms our entire approach to life's challenges. To eliminate the thistle, you don't fight it, you simply stop watering it. You withdraw your attention, your words, your emotion, and simultaneously, you begin giving that same creative energy to what you do desire. You see the roses in your imagination. You speak of them as though they already bloom. You feel their beauty, smell their fragrance, touch their velvety petals. You water the wish fulfilled rather than the problem perceived. This brings us to the extraordinary power contained in your everyday speech, perhaps the most overlooked dimension of manifestation. Most people use their words carelessly, unconsciously, without any recognition of their creative force. They speak of their problems as if they're merely describing them, reporting on them, sharing them. They never realize they are actually decreeing them, commanding them, planting and watering them with each repetition. Every word you speak is a seed planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. Every sentence is a decree issued to the universe. Every story you tell repeatedly becomes a blueprint that your subconscious faithfully constructs. If you speak poverty, I can't afford this. Money is always tight. I never have enough. You are literally commanding poverty into continued existence. If you speak sickness, I'm always getting sick. My body is falling apart. This pain never goes away. You are instructing your body to manifest these conditions. The connection between speech and manifestation isn't metaphorical, it's literal. It operates with mathematical precision, according to immutable law. The world you experience is the harvest of seeds you've planted through your predominant speech. Patterns, both internal and external. What you speak consistently, you experience inevitably. This mechanism operates whether you're aware of it or not, whether you believe in it or not, whether you like it or not. The journey of conscious creation begins with becoming aware of your speech, monitoring it, refining it, directing it deliberately rather than allowing it to flow unconsciously from habit, conditioning, or circumstance. It involves catching yourself in the act of decreeing what you don't want and consciously choosing to decree what you do want instead. Not as future possibilities, but as present facts. Not as aspirations, but as assumptions. The remarkable thing about this journey is that it doesn't require special talents, extensive education, or even spiritual awakening. It simply requires awareness and decision. The awareness of what you're currently creating through speech and the decision to create differently. If you've noticed how your habitual words and phrases have shaped your experience, share your word power realization in the comments below. Now, let's explore a transformative challenge that has the power to completely reshape your reality in just 72 hours. Florence Scovel Shinn offered a remarkably simple yet profound practice that countless individuals have used to create breakthrough experiences in their lives. For 3 days, just 3 rotations of the earth, guard your tongue as if it were the gateway to your destiny, because in truth, it is. This isn't about positive thinking or forced optimism. This is about recognizing the creative power of your speech and making a sovereign decision about how you'll use it. For 3 days, speak only blessing, only provision, only health, only love, only success. Not as future possibilities, but as present facts. Not as things you're trying to get, but as realities you're acknowledging. The brilliance of this 3-day framework is that it's both challenging enough to create meaningful change and manageable enough that anyone can commit to it. 3 days is long enough to disrupt habitual speech patterns that have been creating by default, yet short enough that even the most skeptical mind can approach it as an experiment rather than a lifetime commitment. During these 3 days, you'll become aware of just how often your ordinary speech patterns run contrary to what you actually desire. You'll catch yourself about to say, "I can't afford this," and realize you're about to command lack into being. You'll notice yourself preparing to describe a health problem as permanent and recognize you're about to decree its continuance. You'll observe how frequently you speak against your own good, testifying to limitation while claiming to desire freedom. This heightened awareness alone creates a fundamental shift in consciousness. But the real alchemy happens when you consistently replace these unconscious creations with conscious ones. When you deliberately speak from the assumption of your wish fulfilled rather than its absence. This isn't about denying present circumstances, but about choosing which reality you're giving creative power to through your declarations. What makes this practice so revolutionary is the recognition that your words are not descriptions of what exists. They are commandments to the creative force within you. When you say, "It is already done, already finished, already complete," you're not being delusional or practicing denial. You're issuing instructions to your subconscious, to the God power within you, from the only place that creation ever occurs, the present moment. This 3-day speech discipline works best when paired with a powerful morning ritual that sets the tone for your entire day. Each morning, in that twilight state between sleep and waking, before your feet touch the floor, before you engage with the outer world, before circumstances have a chance to impress themselves upon you, lie quietly and command your day. Set your assumption before the day sets it for you. This sacred moment is a portal of profound creative potential. Your mind is still receptive, still plastic, not yet fully crystallized into its habitual patterns. The veil between conscious and subconscious is at its thinnest. In this state, speak to yourself as the creator, speaking to the creation. Command your day as the playwright would direct a play, with complete authority over what unfolds. Say to yourself with quiet confidence, "Today I speak only from the wish fulfilled. I do not describe what I see, I decree what shall be seen. I am the creative power, I am the presence of God. I am the I am. My word is law, my assumption is fact. My imagination is the only reality. I speak blessing into my world. I speak provision into my finances. I speak health into my body. I speak love into my relationships. I speak success into my work. It is already done. It is already finished. It is already complete. This isn't a prayer to some distant deity. This isn't a petition hoping for favorable response. This is a recognition of your true identity as the creative center of your experience. This is claiming your divine inheritance as consciousness individualized. This is speaking as the God self to the human experience, establishing the creative pattern for the day before circumstances can suggest otherwise. The mindset shift required here is subtle but revolutionary. You're not asking the universe for permission to experience. You're good. You're not hoping that somehow today will be better than yesterday. You're taking your rightful place as the author of your experience and consciously writing the script before the day's drama unfolds. You're proactively setting the frequency you'll broadcast rather than reactively responding to what you receive. What makes this morning dedication so powerful is that it establishes a reference point, an internal compass that you can return to throughout the day whenever you find yourself slipping back into old speech patterns or limiting assumptions. It creates a conscious foundation from which all your words and actions can emerge. If you're willing to try this 3-day speech transformation, comment, "My word creates" below, and share what specific speech pattern you're most committed to changing. Now, let's explore a practice that transforms this teaching from abstract concept into lived experience. Throughout your day, regardless of your schedule or circumstances, implement a powerful habit of pausing at regular intervals to take inner inventory. This practice serves as a conscious checkpoint, a moment to become aware of the creative process that's constantly unfolding through your inner dialogue and emotional state. During these brief pauses, ask yourself these revealing questions. What have I been saying to myself over the past few hours? What testimony have I been giving about my life, my circumstances, my abilities, my future? Does my inner conversation reflect the wish fulfilled, or does it reinforce the old limiting assumption? This moment of self-reflection often reveals astonishing insights about how we unconsciously sabotage our desires through habitual thought patterns. You might discover that while consciously claiming to desire health, your inner dialogue has been rehearsing symptoms and reinforcing illness. You might notice that while externally pursuing financial abundance, your internal conversation has been dominated by thoughts of lack. You might observe that while seeking loving relationships, your private thoughts have been assuming rejection and isolation. This revelation is not cause for self-judgment, but for profound appreciation. You've caught a glimpse behind the curtain of creation. You've witnessed the hidden mechanism that's been creating by default, rather than by design. And in that moment of awareness, you gain the freedom to choose again, to consciously redirect your inner speech from what is to what you desire to be. When you catch yourself complaining internally, rehearsing limitations, or assuming the worst, simply pause and pivot. Don't fight the negative thought or berate yourself for having it. Simply choose again. Deliberately replace it with an assumption that reflects your wish fulfilled. This isn't denial, it's conscious creation. You're not ignoring reality. You're exercising your divine right to select which reality you give power to through your attention and declaration. These moments of conscious redirection might seem small, even insignificant, against the backdrop of habitual thinking, but they represent quantum shifts in your creative blueprint. Each time you catch yourself and choose again, you're weakening old neural pathways and establishing new ones. You're interrupting patterns that may have operated unchallenged for decades and establishing new templates for your experience. This practice reveals a profound truth about the nature of consciousness. One that has been articulated by spiritual traditions throughout history, but often misunderstood. When ancient wisdom says, "The kingdom of God is within you," it's not pointing to a physical location or a post-death destination. It's describing a revolutionary state of awareness, the recognition that you are not in the world is in you. This shift in perception completely transforms your relationship with reality. Most people assume they exist as small, separate entities in a vast, external world that operates independently of them. They believe they are in a universe, moving through it, subject to its conditions and limitations. This perspective creates a natural sense of vulnerability, powerlessness, and separation. The journey of awakening involves the progressive realization that this entire framework is inverted. You are not in a world. The world is in your consciousness. Everything you experience, every person, every circumstance, every condition exists within your awareness. There is nothing outside of consciousness because consciousness is all there is, and you are that consciousness, individualized as a unique vantage point of experience. From this understanding comes an extraordinary revelation. The world isn't happening to you. It's happening from you. It isn't creating your experience. It's reflecting your dominant assumptions. It isn't determining who you are. It's revealing who you've been being in consciousness. The entire cosmos is a mirror, a shadow, an extension of your inner state. This doesn't mean other people don't exist or that physical reality isn't real in the conventional sense. It means that your experience of others, your perception of reality, and your interpretation of circumstances are all shaped by your consciousness. You never experience anything outside of yourself because there is nothing outside of consciousness, and you are consciousness itself. When you truly grasp this, manifestation transforms from an external pursuit into an internal remembering. You stop trying to change things out there and start assuming different states in here. You recognize that the world you see is precisely, perfectly, inevitably reflecting the consciousness you're occupying. To change the reflection, you must change what's being reflected. If you've experienced moments of profound awareness where you realized your perception was creating your reality, share your kingdom within moment in the comments below. Let me share a powerful metaphor that beautifully illustrates the creative relationship between your consciousness and your reality. Imagine a sculptor standing before a massive block of marble. To the untrained eye, it's merely a cold, shapeless stone. But the sculptor sees something entirely different. She sees the magnificent figure already complete within the unformed material. In her imagination, the statue already exists in perfect detail. Her hands simply follow what her mind already perceives. This relationship perfectly captures how consciousness creates experience. Your consciousness is the clay, the raw material of creation. Your imagination is the hand that shapes it. Your assumptions, your feeling states, your dominant thoughts, these form the mold into which the clay of consciousness flows. And your outer world, your circumstances, relationships, finances, health, these are simply the clay taking shape, conforming precisely to the mold you've created through your inner state. Most people look at their external conditions and believe they're describing fixed reality when they say things like, "I have no money," or "My health is poor," or "I can't find love." What they don't realize is that these aren't descriptions at all. They're creative declarations. They're literally shaping the clay of consciousness into those very forms through their assumption and declaration. They're not reporting on what exists. They're sculpting what will exist. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that you're not merely observing your life circumstances. You're generating them through your dominant consciousness. You are both the sculptor and the clay. You are both the creator and the creation. And at any moment, you can reshape the mold, reimagine the figure, and allow consciousness to flow into new forms. This understanding liberates you from the victim perspective that sees life as something happening to you. It places you squarely in the creator position where life is happening through you and from you. It transforms your relationship with reality from passive observer to active participant in the deepest sense. Not merely acting within circumstances, but actually shaping the circumstances themselves through your state of consciousness. Now, I want to address a common challenge that emerges when people first encounter these principles. You might be thinking, This all sounds wonderful in theory, but how can I possibly feel wealthy when my bank account shows zero? How can I feel healthy when my body is in pain? How can I feel loved when I'm alone? Isn't that just denial or delusion? This is where Florence Scovel Shinn offered one of her most practical and accessible techniques, what we might call the gratitude bridge. Instead of trying to force yourself to feel something that seems contradictory to your current experience, you use the authentic feeling of gratitude as a bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Here's how it works. Rather than attempting to immediately jump from feeling poor to feeling wealthy, which might create internal resistance or feel inauthentic, you start by finding something, anything in your current experience that naturally evokes genuine gratitude. Perhaps it's a beautiful sunset, a kind word from a stranger, the comfort of your bed, or simply the miracle of your breathing body. Allow yourself to fully feel that gratitude. Let it fill you completely. Don't rush past it. Really savor the authentic appreciation for what is already present in your life, no matter how small it might seem. This genuine feeling of gratitude creates a vibrational shift in your consciousness. It elevates your emotional state from lack to abundance, from scarcity to sufficiency, and then, from that elevated state, you gently shift your attention to your desire, not as something absent, but as something you're equally grateful for. I am so grateful for my wealth, or I am so thankful for my vibrant health, or I am so appreciative of the loving relationships in my life. Because you're already in a state of genuine gratitude, these declarations don't trigger the same resistance they might have otherwise. This technique is remarkably effective because gratitude is inherently a state of receiving, of having, of acknowledging blessing. It's impossible to simultaneously feel genuine gratitude and lack. When you're in gratitude, you're vibrationally aligned with abundance rather than scarcity. You're in a state of acceptance rather than rejection. You're in a consciousness of fullness rather than emptiness. The gratitude bridge doesn't ask you to deny your current circumstances or pretend they don't exist. It simply offers an authentic pathway to shift your dominant feeling state from one that perpetuates what you don't want to one that creates what you do want. It's a gentle transformation rather than a forced leap. If you've experienced the power of gratitude to transform your perspective and your reality, share your gratitude shift in the comments below. Now let's address one of the most confusing aspects of the manifestation journey, the apparent gap between inner assumption and outer experience. Many people abandon these principles prematurely because they don't understand the relationship between consciousness and time. When Florence Scovel Shinn taught that consciousness is the only reality, she wasn't speaking metaphorically. In the realm of consciousness, which is the causal dimension, the moment you genuinely assume a new state, it is done, it's complete, it's finished. There is no delay. However, the physical world operates according to different parameters. Time is the medium through which consciousness externalizes into form. It's the process through which the invisible becomes visible, through which the seed becomes the flower, through which the blueprint becomes the building. This creates what appears to be a gap between your inner shift and its outer confirmation, a period where you've changed your consciousness, but the physical evidence hasn't yet caught up. This is where most seekers abandon ship. They assume a new state for a day or a week, look around at their unchanged circumstances, and conclude, this doesn't work. They don't realize they're judging the entire process prematurely, like digging up a seed the day after planting it and declaring gardening a failure because they don't see a fully grown plant. The revelation that transforms everything is understanding that this apparent delay isn't a denial. It's not evidence that the law isn't working. It's simply the natural gestation period required for manifestation to move from the causal realm of consciousness into the physical dimension of form. During this phase, something profound is happening behind the scenes. Circumstances are rearranging, opportunities are aligning, people are being drawn to you, resources are mobilizing. The entire universe is orchestrating the perfect sequence of events to bring your assumption into visible expression. This is why faith is so essential to the journey. Not blind faith in something external, but the unwavering persistence in your assumption regardless of temporary appearances. Faith isn't hoping something will happen. It's knowing it's already done in the dimension that matters most. It's the calm certainty that what you've established in consciousness must inevitably express in form. Let me share a remarkable story that demonstrates this principle in action. Florence Scovel Shinn once told of a man who was literally homeless, living on the streets, begging for food, about as far from financial abundance as one could imagine. Yet somehow, this man encountered these principles and decided to test them despite his dire circumstances. Every night before falling asleep on the cold concrete, he would imagine himself wealthy. Notice that he didn't. Imagine having just enough to get off the streets or find basic shelter. He imagined true abundance, millions, a mansion, a life of complete financial freedom. In his imagination, in his consciousness, he lived as a wealthy man while his body rested in apparent poverty. People who knew him thought he was delusional. They pointed to his circumstances as irrefutable evidence that his practice was mere fantasy. "Look at you," they would say. "You're homeless. How can you possibly imagine yourself as a millionaire?" But he understood something they didn't, that circumstances don't create consciousness. Consciousness creates circumstances. He knew that his current conditions were simply the manifestation of past assumptions, not the determinants of future possibilities. So he persisted in his assumption, night after night, regardless of external evidence. Then one day, through what many would call coincidence, but was actually the perfect outworking of law, he overheard a conversation between two businessmen discussing an investment opportunity. Something within him stirred, an intuition, an insight, a knowing, and he approached them to share his perspective. They were so impressed with his unexpected wisdom that they invited him to partner with them. Within 1 year, this formerly homeless man had accumulated $1 million. Within 5 years, his net worth exceeded $100 million. The world would call this luck, chance, or extraordinary exception. But those who understand the law recognize it as the inevitable manifestation of a consciousness that refused to be defined by current circumstances. This story illuminates the transformative power of holding to your assumption during the gap, of maintaining your state regardless of temporary appearances. The homeless man didn't wait until his circumstances improved to feel wealthy. He felt wealthy first, and then his circumstances transformed to match that feeling. He understood that the seed of his fortune existed first in consciousness before it could possibly appear in form. If you've experienced a significant transformation in your life that came about after you changed your inner state, share your manifestation gap story in the comments below. Now, I want to reveal what might be the most profound secret of this entire teaching. A revelation so counterintuitive yet transformative that it completely inverts how most people approach manifestation. Here it is in its beautiful simplicity. You are already wealthy. Right now, in this very moment, you already have everything you desire. Not as a future possibility, not as a potential outcome, but as a present reality in the dimension that matters most: consciousness. This statement might initially seem absurd, especially if you're looking at a bank account that shows otherwise or dealing with financial stress. But that's because we've been conditioned to believe that reality exists primarily in the physical world, that what we can see and touch is more real than what exists in consciousness. This perspective has everything backwards. The hidden truth is that consciousness is the only reality. The physical world is simply consciousness externalized, imagination made visible, the inner made outer. Your current financial circumstances aren't creating your experience of lack. They're reflecting it. They're showing you the consciousness you've been operating from, not dictating what's possible for you moving forward. The only reason you don't experience your wealth in physical form is that you keep assuming its absence. You keep looking at current conditions and declaring, "I don't have enough." You keep checking your bank account and affirming, "I am poor." You keep feeling the constriction of financial limitation and embodying that state. And consciousness, being the faithful servant it is, continues to create evidence confirming exactly what you've been assuming. This revelation completely transforms your approach to financial abundance. Instead of seeing wealth as something distant you need to acquire or attract, you recognize it as an aspect of your being that's already complete in consciousness, waiting only for your recognition and assumption. The journey isn't about becoming wealthy. It's about accepting the wealth that already exists within you. With this understanding, the entire manifestation process undergoes a revolutionary shift. You stop trying to manifest money as if it's something separate from you that needs to be coaxed or convinced to appear in your life. You stop visualizing it desperately, affirming it frantically, or working for it exhaustingly, all approaches that actually reinforce the perception of its absence. Instead, you simply assume wealth as your natural state. You feel it as your current reality rather than a future possibility. You live from the consciousness of abundance rather than the consciousness of lack. And you allow the law to bring that inner state into visible expression through the perfect bridge of incidence. What does this look like in practical terms? It means feeling the quiet confidence that comes with financial security, even before you see external evidence. It means experiencing the relief of knowing that money is no longer a concern, even while bills still sit on your desk. It means embodying the freedom of someone who can make choices without financial constraint, even if your bank account temporarily suggests otherwise. The remarkable thing about this approach is that it requires so much less effort than what most people do trying to manifest financial abundance. There's no straining, no desperate pleading, no complex techniques or exhausting visualization sessions. There's just the peaceful recognition and assumption of what is already yours in consciousness. When you truly grasp this principle, your entire relationship with money transforms. You stop chasing it. You stop worrying about it. You stop fighting for it. You simply assume the state of having it, and you allow the outer to conform to the inner according to perfect law. This doesn't mean you take no action in the physical world, but the nature of your action changes completely. Instead of acting from desperation, from need, from lack, all states that actually push abundance away, you act from fullness, from confidence, from the quiet knowing that you are already provided for. And actions taken from this state naturally align with the flow of abundance rather than fighting against it. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this approach is the immediate relief it provides. You don't have to wait until money appears in your account to feel wealthy. You don't have to postpone the emotional state you're seeking until external circumstances change. You can claim that feeling state now, in this very moment, simply through the power of assumption. The decision to feel wealthy now, despite temporary appearances, isn't denial or delusion. It's the most powerful creative act available to you. It's placing your consciousness in alignment with the abundance that already exists in potential, waiting only for your recognition to express in form. It's stepping into your true identity as a being for whom abundance is natural, for whom provision is certain, for whom wealth is already an established fact in consciousness. If you've experienced a shift in your financial reality after changing your inner relationship with money, share your Wealth Within story in the comments below. Now let's explore one of the most profound philosophical revelations that completely transforms how you perceive your relationship with reality. Most people move through life with a fundamental misunderstanding of their position in the cosmos. They believe they exist as small, separate beings in an enormous universe, tiny figures navigating a vast, indifferent world filled with forces beyond their control. They see themselves as effects rather than causes, as victims rather than creators, as responders rather than initiators. This perception creates a natural sense of vulnerability, of limitation, of being at the mercy of circumstances. It positions you as subordinate to a reality that exists independently of you, that happens to you rather than through you or from you. It's a perspective that naturally breeds fear, anxiety, and a persistent feeling of powerlessness. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered through her own awakening journey, and what the greatest mystical traditions have always taught, is that this entire framework is a grand illusion. The world is not outside of you. You are not in a universe. The entire cosmos is not something separate from you that you must navigate or survive within. The hidden truth that liberates everything is this: the world is projected from you. It is consciousness made visible, imagination solidified into form, the inner externalized into the outer. You are not moving through a world. A world is moving through you. You are not subject to reality. You are the subject of which reality is the predicate. You are not experiencing a universe. You are the consciousness in which all experiences arise. This understanding completely inverts the conventional relationship between you and your life circumstances. It transforms you from passenger to driver, from effect to cause, from powerless observer to sovereign creator. Not in the egoic sense of controlling others or manipulating outcomes, but in the profound recognition that your consciousness is the lens through which all your experiences are filtered, shaped, and ultimately generated. The remarkable thing about this revelation is that it's both the most humbling and the most empowering perspective possible. Humbling because it dissolves the separate self that believes it exists independently of life. Empowering because it returns you to your natural position as the creative center of your experience. Let's apply this understanding to something as seemingly concrete and real as your bank account. When you look at your financial statements and see a balance of 0 or a negative number, the conventional mind says, "This is reality. This is the hard, cold, undeniable fact that I must accept and deal with. This is more real than my thoughts, my feelings, my imagination, my desires." But is that actually true? Or is that bank statement simply a snapshot, a temporary report on the current state of your financial affairs based on past assumptions and consciousness? Is it the cause of your experience, or is it the effect of your dominant consciousness around money? From the perspective of consciousness as the only reality, that bank statement is not a fact to be accepted. It's a reflection to be understood. It's not more real than your consciousness. It's the shadow cast by your consciousness. It's not the immovable reality you must surrender to. It's the temporary manifestation of assumptions. You can change. Just as a mirror faithfully reflects whatever is placed before it, your external circumstances precisely reflect your internal state. The mirror has no independent power. It can only show what's presented to it. Similarly, your financial reality has no independent existence. It can only manifest what you've established in consciousness. This revelation transforms your entire approach to financial challenges. Instead of fighting the reflection, trying to change the numbers through sheer force of will or desperate action, you simply change what's being reflected. You shift your consciousness from lack to abundance, from scarcity to sufficiency, from not enough to more than enough. And as you maintain that shift, as you persist in that new assumption regardless of temporary appearances, the reflection must change because that's the law by which reality operates. The transformation doesn't always announce itself dramatically or instantly. Just as there's a natural development process between planting a seed and harvesting a crop, there's a bridge of incidents that must form between your change in consciousness and its full external manifestation. But the outcome is as certain as the harvest that follows proper planting, not because of wishful thinking, but because of immutable law. What makes this approach so revolutionary is that it places the power of change exactly where it belongs, in your consciousness rather than in external circumstances. You no longer need to exhaust yourself trying to manipulate conditions that are merely effects. You simply assume a new cause in consciousness and allow the effects to transform accordingly. If you've experienced a moment where you suddenly realized that what you were seeing in your life was actually a projection of your own consciousness, share your reality shift moment in the comments below. Now, let's explore a revolutionary perspective on imagination that completely transforms its significance in your life. Most people dismiss imagination as mere fantasy, a pleasant but ultimately insignificant mental activity disconnected from real life. They see it as escapism, as wishful thinking, as childish daydreaming that mature adults should outgrow in favor of facing reality. This profound misunderstanding has robbed countless individuals of their most powerful creative tool. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, and what mystical traditions have always taught, is that imagination is not separate from reality. Imagination is not a retreat from the world. Imagination is the very substance from which the world is formed. Imagination is not merely a human faculty. It is the creative power of the universe itself operating through you. In the most literal and direct sense, imagination is God. Not a symbol of God, not a pathway to God, not a gift from God, but the very presence and power of the divine expressing through your consciousness. When you imagine, you are not engaging in fantasy. You are participating in the fundamental creative process of the universe. You are exercising the same power that spoke worlds into existence. This understanding completely revolutionizes how you approach the images you hold in mind. They are not inconsequential daydreams or meaningless mental pictures. They are the templates, the blueprints, the molds into which the substance of life will inevitably flow. Whatever you imagine and assume, whatever you give feeling reality to in your consciousness, becomes your experience. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but literally and inevitably. The law that governs this process operates with mathematical precision, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you believe in it or not, whether you're using it consciously or unconsciously. Just as gravity doesn't require your understanding or consent to function, the law of consciousness, creating reality, operates regardless of your recognition. The only question is whether you're using it by design or by default. Most people use this extraordinary creative power unconsciously, haphazardly, often to their detriment. They imagine fearful outcomes and wonder why they experience anxiety. They picture financial struggle and wonder why abundance eludes them. They visualize rejection and wonder why fulfilling relationships remain distant. They're using the law in reverse, creating what they don't want while remaining unaware of their participation in the process. The journey of awakening involves bringing this unconscious creation into conscious awareness, recognizing that your imagination is not just responding to life, it's generating it. It's not just interpreting reality, it's creating it. The images you hold in mind, especially those infused with feeling and assumption, are not descriptions of what exists. They're prescriptions for what will exist. Now let me share with you one of the most practical and powerful applications of this understanding: the relationship between sleep and the subconscious mind. Sleep is far more than a biological function for physical restoration. It represents a profound shift in consciousness where the analytical, skeptical conscious mind releases its guard, and the subconscious becomes incredibly receptive to impression. Your subconscious doesn't evaluate or judge what you present to it. It doesn't argue or resist or question. It simply accepts whatever is impressed upon it with feeling and then proceeds to build your world in perfect conformity with that impression. It's the faithful servant of your assumptions, the tireless builder that constructs your experience according to the blueprint you provide, not through your words, not through your actions, but through your feeling states. This is why the state you fall asleep in carries such extraordinary creative power. The moment before, sleep represents a direct gateway to the subconscious, a period when the barrier between conscious intention and subconscious acceptance is at its thinnest, when the gatekeeper of analytical mind steps aside and allows direct impression upon the creative center. If you fall asleep feeling poor, rehearsing financial worries, inventorying lack, focusing on limitation, you're literally instructing your subconscious to create more poverty in your experience. You're programming the creative mechanism to manifest precisely what you don't want. And your subconscious, being the perfect servant, will faithfully Execute those instructions, bringing forth circumstances, conditions, and experiences that confirm your assumption of lack. Conversely, if you fall asleep feeling wealthy, experiencing the relief, the freedom, the quiet confidence of financial abundance, you're providing an entirely different blueprint to your subconscious. You're programming the creative mechanism to manifest prosperity rather than poverty. And with the same precision, the same faithfulness, your subconscious will bring forth evidence confirming your new assumption. This understanding reveals sleep as a sacred opportunity, a daily opening to re-imprint your subconscious with assumptions aligned with your desires rather than your fears. It transforms those final moments before surrender to sleep into the most potent creative session available to you. If you've noticed a direct correlation between your dominant thoughts, feelings before sleep, and what shows up in your waking experience, share your sleep creator insight in the comments below. Now let's explore a profound shift in how you approach manifestation that transforms it from an external pursuit into an embodied reality. One of the most common mistakes people make on this journey is thinking of their desire as something separate from themselves, a future condition they're moving toward, an experience they hope to eventually have, a state they're trying to reach. This perspective, while seemingly natural, actually creates the very separation it seeks to overcome. When you think of your desire as something out there, something you're attempting to get, achieve, or attain, you're automatically positioning it in the future. You're creating a gap between where you are and where you want to be, between who you are and who you want to become. And that gap, maintained in consciousness, ensures your desire remains perpetually just out of reach, always approaching, but never fully arriving. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered a revolutionary alternative to this approach, what she called living from the end. Instead of thinking of your desire, you think from your desire. Instead of seeing it as a distant goal, you experience it as a present reality. Instead of imagining yourself getting it, you imagine from the perspective of already having it, being it, living it. The distinction here is subtle but transformative. When you think of your desire, you're reinforcing its absence. When you think from your desire, you're embodying its presence. This isn't about visualizing a future scenario where your wish comes true. It's about assuming the feeling, the identity, the state of consciousness that would be yours if the wish were already fulfilled. This approach completely collapses the distance between desire and fulfillment. There's no waiting, no pursuing, no timeline, just a shift in state, a transformation in identity that happens now, in this moment, through the power of assumption. You don't become wealthy someday when certain external conditions are met. You assume the state of wealth now, and those conditions naturally follow to match your new state. This isn't pretending or self-deception. It's recognizing that the journey from where you are to where you want to be isn't a physical distance to be traveled, but a shift in consciousness to be experienced. The person who has what you desire thinks differently, feels differently, perceives differently than the person who wants it. And you can assume that different way of thinking, feeling, and perceiving immediately, not through force, but through gentle, persistent assumption. Now, let me share a beautiful metaphor that illuminates this process with remarkable clarity. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. The untrained eye sees only a shapeless stone, but the sculptor sees something entirely different, a magnificent figure already complete within the unformed material. In the sculptor's imagination, the statue already exists. In perfect detail, the work isn't to create something that doesn't exist, but to reveal what is already there, hidden within the marble. This relationship perfectly captures your journey of transformation. You are both the sculptor and the marble. The true you, fulfilled, abundant, free, loving, whole, already exists within, not as a potential, but as a present reality in consciousness. This authentic self isn't something you need to create or become. It's something you need to uncover, to reveal, to remember. What obscures this true self? layers of false assumption, old identities that you've worn for so long you believe they're you, limiting beliefs inherited from family, culture, and experience, fear-based patterns that have calcified into seemingly solid reality. These are not your authentic nature. They are what conceals it from your awareness. Your work, then, is not to become someone new, but to remove what is not you. Like the sculptor, you're not building yourself from the outside in. You're revealing yourself from the inside out. You're not adding something that was missing. You're removing what was hiding the completeness that was always there. This perspective completely transforms the manifestation journey from one of acquisition to one of revelation. You're not trying to get something you lack. You're uncovering the abundance that is your true nature. You're not becoming someone different. You're releasing the false identities that have obscured who you really are. The practical application of this understanding is profound. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to build a new reality through force of will, you simply assume the state of already being what you desire to be. You recognize that your authentic self, the self that is already whole, already abundant, already free, exists now beneath the layers of limitation. And through consistent assumption, through living from the end, you gradually chip away at what is not you until your true nature stands revealed in all its magnificence. If you've experienced a moment where you realized that what you were seeking was already present within you, waiting to be uncovered rather than created, share your inner revelation in the comments below. Now, let's explore a profound philosophical insight that completely transforms your relationship with reality in ways both challenging and liberating. I want to ask you a seemingly simple question that contains within it a revolutionary revelation. Have you ever experienced anything, any person, any event, any circumstance, any sensation outside of your consciousness? Take a moment to really consider this. When you see a tree, you're experiencing your conscious awareness of the tree, not the tree itself in some objective, independent form. When you hear music, you're experiencing the conscious interpretation of sound waves, not some external music existing separately from your awareness. When you feel pain or pleasure, you're experiencing consciousness in different states, not something happening to a body that exists outside of consciousness. The astonishing truth is that you haven't and you can't experience anything outside of consciousness because consciousness is the medium through which all experience occurs. It's not merely a lens through which you perceive reality. It is the very substance of your reality. Everything you've ever known or experienced, every relationship, every achievement, every challenge, every joy, every sorrow has happened within the field of your awareness, within consciousness itself. This understanding completely inverts the conventional perspective that positions you as a small being in a vast external world. The world is not happening to you. It's happening in you. Your life is not unfolding outside of you. It's unfolding within your consciousness. And most importantly, that consciousness is not passively recording what exists. It's actively creating what you experience through your assumptions, your beliefs, your expectations, and your dominant feeling states. What makes this revelation so transformative is the recognition that if everything is happening within consciousness, and consciousness is shaped by assumption, then changing your assumptions literally changes your reality. Not in some metaphorical sense, but in the most direct and literal way possible. When you assume wealth, you're not trying to attract something external. You're shifting the consciousness in which all your financial experiences occur. Now, let me take you even deeper into a dimension of this teaching that many find either terrifying or completely liberating, depending on their perspective. Not only is your physical world a reflection of your consciousness, but every person in your experience is what Florence Scovel Shinn called you pushed out, an expression of your own assumptions about them and about relationships in general. This doesn't mean other people don't have their own consciousness or free will. It means that your experience of them, how they show up in your world, how they treat you, what they reflect back to you, is intimately shaped by your assumptions about them. They don't behave a certain way despite your assumptions. They behave that way because of your assumptions. Consider how differently the same person might treat two different individuals, warm and open with one, cold and distant with another. The conventional explanation is that they're responding to different behaviors or personalities. The deeper truth is that they're conforming to different assumptions, different expectations, different states of consciousness in each relationship. When someone consistently shows up as judgmental in your experience, it's not because they inherently are judgmental to everyone. It's because you hold an assumption of being judged, and your consciousness creates evidence to match that assumption. When someone consistently appears supportive in your life, it's not random good fortune. It's because you assume support, and consciousness must produce experiences that confirm what you assume to be true. This understanding can initially feel terrifying because it places tremendous responsibility on your shoulders. If your relationships are reflecting your consciousness, then you can no longer blame others for how they treat you. You can no longer position yourself as a victim of circumstances beyond your control. You must acknowledge your role in creating your relationship experiences through your dominant assumptions. But what begins as a seemingly heavy responsibility reveals itself as extraordinary liberation. If people are reflecting your assumptions, then changing your assumptions about someone literally changes how they show up in your experience, not through manipulation or control, but through a shift in the consciousness from which you're relating to them. When you no longer assume rejection, people stop rejecting you. When you no longer expect criticism, people stop criticizing you. When you no longer anticipate betrayal, people stop betraying you. Not because you've changed them directly, but because you've changed the consciousness in which your experience of them occurs. If you've ever noticed how your assumptions about someone seem to influence how they behave toward you, share your reflection moment in the comments below. Now, I want to explore a truly revolutionary concept that challenges one of our most fundamental assumptions about reality: the fixed nature of the past. Most people believe the past is unchangeable. What happened, happened, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. They carry memories of rejection, failure, and disappointment, as if these experiences were permanently etched in stone, forever defining who they are and what's possible for them. This perspective creates a peculiar kind of prison. Your past experiences, particularly the painful ones, continue shaping your present identity and future possibilities. You remain chained to old stories, old wounds, old limitations, not because they have any inherent power over you, but because you continue to give them power through the way you remember them. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered is that the past isn't as fixed as we've been taught to believe. The past doesn't exist in some objective realm beyond reach. It exists in your consciousness right now, in this moment. And every time you remember an event, you're not accessing a recording stored somewhere in your brain. You're actually recreating that event through the active power of imagination. Memory is not retrieval, it's recreation. It's not a photograph, it's a painting you're making in the present moment. And if memory is a creative act rather than a passive recording, then you have the power to reimagine your past, to revise it in ways that liberate rather than limit you. This technique, which Scovel Shinn called revision, is not about denial or pretending painful events never happened. It's about reconceiving those events in a way that empowers rather than diminishes you. It's about extracting the poison from past wounds so they no longer infect your present and future. Here's how it works. Before sleep each night, identify a scene from your past that continues to cause pain, limitation, or regret. Perhaps it's a rejection that damaged your confidence, a failure that made you doubt your abilities, or a loss that left you feeling diminished. Now, consciously choose to reimagine that event with a different outcome. Not the outcome you wish had happened, but the outcome you choose to impress upon your consciousness now. If you were rejected, reimagine acceptance. If you failed, reimagine success. If you lost, reimagine gain. And most importantly, feel the new version as though it had actually happened. Let your body relax into the relief, the satisfaction, the peace of this revised memory. When you do this consistently, something remarkable begins to happen. The emotional charge of the original memory starts to dissolve. The story loses its grip on your identity. The past literally transforms, not in the outer world of records and other people's memories, but in the only place that truly matters, your consciousness, which is the source of all your future creations. This practice reveals a profound truth. You are not bound by what happened to you. You are bound by how you remember what happened, and how you remember is a choice you can make consciously, rather than by default. Now let me share the most powerful sleep practice that brings together everything we've explored so far. This simple yet profound technique harnesses the extraordinary creative power of the pre-sleep state to reshape your entire life experience. Begin by identifying your wish fulfilled, the state you desire to experience. Perhaps it's financial abundance, vibrant health, a loving relationship, or creative fulfillment. Now, reduce this wish to a single scene that implies it's already fulfilled. This is crucial. Don't imagine the process of getting what you want. Imagine a moment after you already have it. For example, if you desire financial freedom, don't imagine receiving money or winning the lottery. Instead, imagine a quiet moment checking your bank account and feeling absolute peace about the substantial balance. If you desire health, don't imagine the healing process. Imagine yourself engaged in an activity that would only be possible if you were already completely well. Keep the scene simple, natural, and focused on the feeling rather than elaborate details. The power isn't in the complexity of your visualization, but in the depth of your feeling. Enter the scene in imagination and feel it as absolutely real. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet satisfaction of your wish being fulfilled, not as a future possibility, but as a present fact. As you begin to drift toward sleep, gently loop this scene and the feeling it evokes. Don't strain or force it. Simply return to it whenever your mind wanders, carrying the feeling with you as you cross the threshold into sleep. This practice is powerful because the state you fall asleep in directly impresses your subconscious mind. The deeper creative aspect of yourself that builds your world according to your dominant assumptions. When you impress the feeling of your wish fulfilled upon your subconscious just before sleep, you're providing a new template for creation. You're giving clear, direct instructions to the builder within you, and that builder, operating beyond your conscious awareness, will begin rearranging circumstances to match your new assumption. If you've experienced success with using sleep to transform an aspect of your life, share your sleep success story in the comments below. Now, let's explore the practical dimension of bringing these principles into your everyday experience. Consciousness isn't something you engage with only during dedicated meditation sessions or visualization practices. It's the continuous medium of your existence, operating every moment of every day. This understanding reveals an extraordinary opportunity for transformation that most people completely overlook. Throughout your day, regardless of what you're doing or where you are, practice a form of mindful awareness directed specifically at your state of consciousness. Periodically pause and notice, what state am I operating from right now? Am I dwelling in worry, lack, frustration, or limitation? Or am I embodying my wish fulfilled? Am I thinking from the problem or from the solution? Am I assuming what I don't want or what I do want? This awareness practice serves as a real-time navigation system for your creative journey. Most people move through their days on autopilot, unconsciously dwelling in states that contradict their desires, then wondering why those desires remain unfulfilled. By becoming conscious of your state, you gain the freedom to redirect it, to choose deliberately rather than react habitually. When you catch yourself in a state that doesn't serve your highest vision, and you will many times throughout the day, don't judge or criticize yourself. Simply acknowledge where you are and make a gentle course correction. Ask yourself, what would I be feeling right now if my desire were already fulfilled? How would I be moving through this situation if I were already the person I aspire to be? What emotions would naturally arise if I were already experiencing what I want to experience? Then, for even just a moment, assume that feeling. Enter that state. Embody that consciousness. You don't need to maintain it perfectly for hours. Even brief moments of alignment create powerful ripples in your creative blueprint. It's like adjusting the rudder of a ship. A small change maintained consistently completely alters your destination. What makes this practice so revolutionary is that it transforms manifestation from something you do occasionally to something you are continuously. You're no longer setting aside special times to work on your goals while spending the majority of your day contradicting them through unconscious states. You're bringing your creative power into every moment, every interaction, every decision. The remarkable thing about this approach is how it completely dissolves the artificial boundary between spiritual practice and real life. Your consciousness isn't something separate from your daily experience. It is your daily experience. Every meeting, every conversation, every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice the art of conscious assumption, to embody the state of your wish fulfilled regardless of temporary appearances. With consistent practice, you'll notice something fascinating. The moments of alignment become longer. The periods of automatic reaction become shorter. What began as occasional glimpses of your desired state gradually becomes your dominant consciousness. The exception becomes the rule. The practice becomes your natural way of being. Now, let me bring your attention to a pivotal moment that occurs every single day. A decision point that shapes the trajectory of your entire life, though most people remain completely unaware of its significance. Tonight, like every night, you face a profound choice as you prepare for sleep. It's a choice that determines what you'll experience tomorrow, and by extension, what your life becomes. You can fall asleep in the same state of worry, anxiety, and limitation that may have dominated your day. You can carry your problems, your fears, your sense of lack into sleep with you. You can rehearse what went wrong, anticipate future challenges, and inventory all the ways life isn't meeting your expectations. This is what most people do by default, never realizing they're programming another day of the same experiences they claim to want to change. Or you can make a different choice. You can consciously enter sleep in the state of your wish fulfilled. You can feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet confidence of already having what you desire. You can surrender to sleep from a state of completion rather than longing, of peace rather than struggle, of fulfillment rather than want. This choice, made in the privacy of your own consciousness as you drift toward sleep, shapes what you'll encounter when you wake. This isn't magical thinking. It's the precise application of immutable law. Consciousness is the only reality, and you are imprinting your consciousness with a specific template just before entering the most receptive state available to you. The universe, which is your own wonderful human imagination pushed out into form, will prove this principle to you with mathematical precision. If you've ever noticed how the state you fall asleep in seems to set the tone for your entire next day, share your sleep choice experience in the comments below. As we come to this pause in our exploration together, I want to acknowledge something remarkable. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, it's not by chance. There's a reason these teachings have resonated with you. These principles of sleep, consciousness, and creation have been calling to the creator within you that's ready to awaken. The fact that you've remained engaged with these concepts suggests you're standing at a powerful threshold of transformation. Tonight, you have the opportunity to begin applying what you've discovered, to fall asleep in the state of your wish fulfilled, and to witness the inevitable unfolding of that assumption into your experience. If you found value in this deeper understanding of how your consciousness shapes your reality while you sleep, I'd love to hear from you. Simply leave a comment saying "Sleep Creator" below, and I'll know these teachings have found their home in someone ready to apply them. Your engagement truly matters, not just in supporting this channel to reach others who might benefit from these insights, but as a declaration of your own commitment to conscious creation. When you click that like button, you're affirming something powerful about your own journey. Now, if you're ready to continue expanding your understanding of these principles, there's a video right here that explores how to apply these same concepts to your waking hours. Click and join me there as we discover how to maintain your creative state throughout your day, making every moment an opportunity for conscious manifestation. Remember, the transformation begins tonight, in those precious moments before sleep when you choose which reality you'll create. I'm honored to be part of your journey.